Hi everyone, welcome to the POC and Gameloft webinar. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes just to let people join and then we'll kick start in literally 1 to 2 minutes. Hi everyone. Okay, I'm going to kick start. So I would like to welcome you all to the webinar on how to boost retail app conversion, engagement and sales using in-app games and gamification. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Oh, yes.
I'm really excited about this partnership POC have formed with Gameloft. And with that, I welcome our speakers today to you. I'm Sheenu Agarwal, the POC app marketing specialist here at POC. I've been working in digital marketing for over 16 years. And my role here at POC is to consult our customers on how they can really drive app growth, whether it be via ad tech adoption or working with partners such as Gameloft. I would like to give a very big warm welcome to Yasin Elbez, brand partnerships at Gameloft, who has worked in media for the past 15 years and has been in the gaming space for the last 7 of those years. Yasin helps brands connect with gaming through Gameloft, who are one of the world's largest game publishers. Just before we start, just a few points to note. If you have any questions, please send them through the chat function, and there'll be time at the end of the webinar for a Q&A. So as I mentioned before, I'm really excited to announce this partnership with Gameloft. As a native app SaaS platform, it's important for us to see our customers succeed, which means that we need to go beyond and help drive home strategies that help acquire and retain users to really drive your app growth. One of the pillar points to do this is about creating a better app experience than web and offering something exclusive within the app. Therefore, we saw this as an exciting opportunity for our customers, and hence the importance of partnering with a company such as Gameloft that could bring that flair of creativity professionally, seamlessly, and with minimal efforts to our customers. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, sorry. So in-app games and gamification has always played a role within many sectors, including retail. However, over the last 6 to 12 months, we have seen in-app games increasingly being used across many retail shopping apps. What you're seeing here, for example, on screen is the Gucci app, who have created a whole arcade of in-app games for their users to play on. So whilst putting games in your app may be great, fun, and innovative, there should always be an objective behind it, and therefore not just a feature. In-app games can be a great effective way to bring customers in, drive app downloads and sales, and increase engagement, loyalty, and revenue. In today's webinar, we hope you'll be able to understand the mobile gamification opportunity and how retailers can use gaming capabilities to drive key engagement metrics, e.g. sales. Learn about merging best practices for using gamification from #1 mobile games developer, Gameloft, and get some insight into case studies and how this is extremely relevant to retailers today. And with that, it's with my great pleasure that I'm going to hand over to Yasin.
Cool. Thank you very much, Shinu, and nice to meet you all. So I just wanted to start off just by giving you everyone a background to who Gameloft is. So as you've gathered by now, we're a games publisher. We've been in the gaming industry for about 20 years now. So we started off in the early 2000s, developing on very basic Java and web devices. All the way through to today, where we develop for TV, consoles, smartphones, everywhere basically. We're part of a Vivendi group, which is a media conglomerate which includes Universal Music, Dailymotion, Canal Plus, and we publish a lot of our own IPs and also licensed games on behalf of our partners like Sega, Lego, Universal Studios, etc. So what happened is that about 6 or 7 years ago, we opened up an advertising network within our games, and we saw that there was a consistent and growing demand to develop playable mini ads, you can call them. And this demand was so consistent that eventually what we did is we took over 100 of our gaming experts, and we opened up our own creative studio to just focus on gaming content for brands. So that's a bit of a background. In terms of today's agenda, so we'll look at a little bit of context first, then we'll look at the benefits of in-app games. We'll look at how to actually go about a gaming campaign, and then we'll touch on gamification and finish on case studies, hopefully at the end.
And Yasin, just before you continue, we're hearing a bit of a clicking in the background.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if your headset's interfering.
I think it's my headset, so I'll try to stay very still.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, no problem. Let's now discuss some of the key triggers or drivers to the interest that's risen recently. So first and foremost, I think we'll all agree there's a lot of, the market's very crowded. There's a lot of apps. I think there's a stat that there's over 5 million apps on the Google Play and Apple Store. So the biggest challenge now for app developers is about creating really unique and innovative experiences to keep people engaged. And then it's no wonder that those app developers are now looking to the gaming industry for inspiration. And then coupled with that is technology. And there's a couple of factors here. So the first is device usage. There was a study recently by KPMG which showed that millennials on average use 2 tech devices a day. And that's also another reason why a lot of retail app developers are looking to use gamification to engage with those customers. And also in terms of 5G and AR, that's opened up a whole lot of opportunities and possibilities for retail app developers. We've all seen recently how on social media now you can try on, you can use AR to try on clothes or accessories. And then looking at audience, so if we look at 2004, the average age of a gamer was 16 to possibly 24, whereas today, the average age of a gamer is actually 35 years old. And the industry is really, really, really huge. So there's about 2.6 billion gamers worldwide. And a lot of this growth is being driven by mobile. There was another study that showed that 3 and 4 gamers prefer to play on mobile devices, and that's been driven also a lot through what's happened last year with the lockdown and COVID. Vivendi also did a report last year, which showed that 8% of worldwide consumers played games for the very first time during 2020. And of those people who already played games, they increased their play time by about 55%. And also in terms of like the diverse nature of what a gamer now looks like, it's very, very different. To give an example, female gamers now make up 51% of total gamers worldwide. There was another study by Activision recently that showed that 71% of mums play games on a regular basis. And even at the older demographic, we're seeing that those age 50 plus are turning to games to keep them mentally sharp and even socially connect with others. And lastly, the low barriers. So for lots and lots of years, we've seen lots of different industries try and use gamification to engage and keep their audiences entertained. And a lot of these mechanics are very simple and very easy to implement. And that's why, retail app developers really want to ride this wave in terms of adapting gamification. And then what I mentioned previously about audience also has some you can say implications for the fashion industry in general. And a lot of these brands are also using games as a way to talk and engage with their audience because gamers are a lot more older now than what they used to be. So just to give you two examples here, last year Gucci partnered with the game Tennis Clash to produce a unique line of clothing that could be used in the game. And also Moschino partnered with EA to release an exclusive line, which was again skinned on characters in the game The Sims. And even in the esports scene, so we've seen brands like Puma and Louis Vuitton producing exclusive lines just for esport gamers. And when we also look at the in terms of the general retail space, there are lots of examples either that we've seen or that we've come across. Alibaba, when they first launched, used games heavily inside their platform, and these games allowed customers to play to get digital coins, which gave them discounts, and use those coins to play instant win games. And this is really what propelled Alibaba and AliExpress at the beginning to be at the forefront of e-commerce now. And then an example from the US, eBay. So eBay uses really cool, subtle, but effective gamification techniques. So there's a bidding system to spur up competition, so every single purchase feels like a win. And there's a point system to grade buyers and sellers. And looking at the AR space, La Moda launched in 2019, and it's an app that features a virtual fitting room where you can actually try on shoes and accessories before buying them. And now the app has about 150,000 users every single month. And even when we look at digital marketers, this was a study done by Demand Gen just to gauge the interest of marketers in terms of gamification to see if they like it. And as you can see, they did. So 93% of marketers really love gamification, and about 81% believe that this form of content is really attention grabbing and effective in terms of grabbing attention. So now there's really two routes for retail that we can apply. And this is where we come to the somewhat grey distinction between games and gamification. So here's a definition of a game, which is quite sterile. But the key takeaway is that games are fun, and games are the actual product. And gamification is where we take the fun and engaging aspects that make a game so enjoyable and apply it in a non-gaming context. So one is the product and the other is the process. But applying gamification to your app doesn't necessarily make it a game. It just makes the whole experience feel like a game. And oops, sorry. And that's where we'll look at the first route in terms of the benefits to app retailers for games. So the two first ones, and really the most obvious ones, is retention and engagement. So games really appeal to our natural desire to play, and they can generate awareness and conversion in a real fun way. And when you link them to something, to a prize or to some reason for your shoppers to keep on coming back to your app, they really create more screen time, which in the long run should convert back to better engagement and more sales. And then, so talking about sales, again, mini games can be used for any kind of sales promotion or sales activity you might have. It could be that you want to give away discount vouchers. It could be, promo codes for a buy one, get one free. The point with using games is that when players actually play to get rewards, they actually feel like they've earned it and are more likely to redeem. And lastly, trust and loyalty. So games really create dopamine in the player's brain, and this generates in the long run trust and dopamine, trust and loyalty between you and your audience. And then talking about dopamine, games are other than just the commercial benefits, games are a really great storytelling medium because they're scientifically proven to stimulate the brain in a very, very unique way. So this is what's happening in the brain when you're playing a game. So you see you have oxytocin, which is the hormone that drives immersion and credibility. Your hippocampus is being stimulated, which drives recall, and dopamine is being created, which drives positive associations in anticipation for a reward. So really, the key takeaway is that while we can think about games as a way to generate sales, they're also a really great storytelling medium. And here's a proof point of that. So we've developed over 800 games over the years. And what we did a while back was to do a survey to see actually how effective are these games with our audience. And what we found is that out of all the players that were exposed to these mini games that we produce for brands as an ad format, we found that 90% of them remembered the game up to 2 days later of being exposed to it. And this is really the advantage of working with a developer like Gameloft. Because we've developed so many games and we have direct access to our gamers, we've developed insights over the years, which give our partners an unfair advantage when we're working with them on their gaming campaigns. So in terms of how to approach a gaming campaign, there's some key elements that we look at whenever we plan. So the first thing is to link your gaming campaign to some kind of reward. The user's always going to have a reason to play, and it could be something which is virtual or some kind of actual discount that the user's getting for playing the game, which should also link back to your objectives. And then whenever we approach a project, we always kind of like take an audience first approach. And this is really, really key in terms of designing the concept of the game, in terms of the narrative, the elements that we use, the visual style. That's also very important. And it's also key to have a strategy. So it's not like, we build a game and we put it's embedded in your app and that's it. It's always good to have some kind of strategy behind it in terms of, where does a game live in your app? How is it going to be seen? How is it going to be promoted? That's also important before we approach a gaming project. And also defining goals. So it's really key to have some kind of success metric set up right at the beginning, so we can measure success first and foremost, but also so that you've got something to aim towards. And this affects actually the whole development and the whole mechanism in terms of how the game is deployed and what mechanics we use. And lastly, we tend to focus on hyper casual gameplay. So right now, these are the most popular games on all of the app stores. These are like highly addictive, simple gameplays that you can typically play with one finger, and they create like real fun in a short amount of time, which is perfect for mobile. And now I just want to show you how that actually looks like. So over here to your left, you've got a video of an actual campaign that we did for a company called Shopback. So here there's a banner inside the app. And this is actually how all of the Gameloft games will work with the Shopback partnership. So it's an iframe link, which is triggered through a banner inside the app. And then it's opened in WebView. So the user never actually leaves the app. And in terms of metrics, there's a lot of things that we can measure, but just to give you an example, we've got here impression, which is when the banner is seen, engagement when the user taps on the banner and then taps again to agree to play the game. You've got complete engagement, which is when they can play the game in full, and then you've got click-through. And we've got some KPIs here, and these are like average, but as you see, as we go to the case studies, the KPIs can vary quite a lot depending on how we actually approach the campaign itself in a good way, not in a bad way. So what type of game? So on every single project that we work with you guys on, we always approach it as something fresh. So we'll always come up with something bespoke to your brief and your objectives. But just to give you a few ideas, we can create something based on a theme. So it could be like Christmas or a summer theme. It could be something based on brand character, or it could be something just a simple addictive gameplay where we add a layer of branding on top. And then in terms of additional add-ons, there's a lot of things that we can add. And again, this is typically decided much early on in the process, but everything from leaderboard features to multiplayer functionality to having a common goal. There's lots of things that we can add. And that brings us on to gamification. So gamification is a term that was first coined by a gentleman called Nick Pellin in 2002, who's a programmer and a game designer. And he defined it as the use of game elements and mechanics in a non-game context for user engagement and problem solving. And the reason why we use it gamification, why we call it gamification, is because really the gaming industry was the first industry to build experiences around motivational drivers. So, as you guys all know, games have no real purpose. There are objectives in games, like could be saving a princess or defeating a dragon, but really those are all excuses to keep users engaged. And for decades, games have really mastered the art of engagement and motivation. And that's why we're learning from games today, and we call it gamification. So it matters because we can use those gamification motivators to solve business problems or to to fix any pain points. And we know it works because it's proven over the years, and people can be easily motivated when given the right kind of stimulus. And this is where we come to some basics in terms of gamification. So all gamification is built on motivational drivers, and I'm sure we've all seen some of these or come across some of these in some digital platform that we might have come across. But I just want to go through just one or two of them just to give you an idea. So, for example, epic, meaning and calling. So this is a core driver where the player feels like they're doing something greater than themselves, or that we're chosen to do something. And this is why like very simple games often have some kind of weird narrative or story behind them where the player is framed as a character of importance in a situation bigger than themselves. And that drives people to progress. And then, for example, development and accomplishment. So this is the core driver of making progress, developing skills. And we see this every day with apps that incorporate point systems. So as you generate points inside the app, that drives you to do more tasks to get more points, which causes you to develop inside the app or to learn. Then we come to, let's say, like, for example, loss and avoidance. So this is the core driver based on the avoidance of something negative happening. So this could be, like, to give you like a really small example, it could be losing your progress in a game. But one example we all know about is, for example, when we all used to fly using tiers with the airlines. So when you're on like a really good tier, there's a real sense of loss for you to drop down a tier, which causes you to, again, to progress and to keep your tier, so to keep flying. And lastly, ownership. So ownership is the core driver where people feel motivated because they feel like they actually own something. And because they own it, they want to make it bigger and better. And that also leads back to progression. And just to give you a quick example of that, so Genies is an app where basically people can develop avatars based on their own character type, and they can use those avatars in different apps or messaging platforms. And what Gucci did recently was to partner up with this app to release a series of digital assets which were tied to actual real Gucci products which people can wear in using their avatar. So here's a really cool example of ownership and customization. And just to put everything together for you, so here's 3 design pillars that we use in gamification. So here we're looking at stage, motivation, and mechanics. It could be that instead of looking at a stage in the life cycle of the user, it could be something quite simple where we're just looking at one specific problem that we need to solve. But this just gives you like a whole holistic point of view of how gamification can be applied. So it could be that, for example, during onboarding, we notice that there's a drop off in users, and then it could be that we recognize that, okay, you can say the motivational driver which is missing that we need to support is empowerment and ownership, and then the gaming mechanic that we can apply to support that could be milestone unlocks, avatars, point systems, etc. So you get the point. So it could be a particular phase during the life cycle or a particular problem. But the key is to recognize the motivational driver and then the gaming mechanic which supports that driver. And the whole focus here is to move from extrinsic motivation. So, for example, actually getting your hands on the handbag that you want to buy, to intrinsic motivation, which is enjoying the whole process of buying that handbag because it feels fun and playful. And so now to finish, just to put that all together, just going to go through a few case studies very quickly. So this was an in-app campaign that we did for a Singaporean company in Singapore. And basically the aim of the campaign was simply to increase in-app screen time. So we created an app, which was a game, which was embedded in the app based on their mascot. And again, the results were fantastic. We had like a 99% replay rate and over 20 million minutes of gameplay time. And also we distributed about, it was 1.4 million rewards during the campaign. This is an example for a retailer based in the Middle East called Namshi. So here, the problem that the retailer had was that this campaign launched in November, and what they wanted to do was to really increase screen time during that period, because normally there's a lot of offers and it can get very noisy marketing wise. So what we did is we developed 3 games for 3 different demographics within the app. And we worked with Namchi to devise a really enticing discount that the users would get. And we made the game a little bit more difficult than usual. So not difficult, challenging. And this is why you see here the replay rate is extremely high. We had a replay rate of 236%. And lastly, just to show an example we did for McDonald's. Again, it's a game inside their app based on their brand character. But here, what the goal was, again, was to keep people within the app. So here what we did is that we made a really fun gameplay, and we made it so that you had to play the game for at least 40 seconds to get a prize. And then after that, in order to get more coupons, you had to reach a really, really high score. So it's like we used a carrot, which was the first kind of like coupon that the user got, which was quite easy, and to bring them in, and then a really tough target to get them to keep on playing. And you'll see here, like, the results were incredible. We had 1.6 million minutes generated inside the app. And that's it for me. So I'll leave you over to Shinu.
Awesome. Thank you, Yasin. I thought we were about to get a whole cognitive psychology lesson there. But it was great to see the science behind gaming and how that can be used to drive app behavior, such as engagement, but really breaking down those motivational drivers. It was great to see the strategy and thought behind the approach to really hit our customers' objectives. And that it really does go beyond being just a feature in the app, and those differences between it being a product or a process. So thank you so much for taking us through that. If you have any questions, please do send them through in the chat. We have had a few come in, but please get them in. And just to remind you as well, that this webinar will be available on demand afterwards. So we will be sending you the link so you can review the content again. But just to sort of address, getting started, it's easy. All you have to do is contact your customer success manager. If you have any questions, we'll definitely help answer them there. Otherwise, if you're ready to explore putting games into your app, we can set up a call with Yasin and myself, where we'll understand your objectives, your branding, your creative, and potentially actually extract a brief from you. And then once Gameloft have that brief, they'll be able to respond to this with concepts and ideas, and work closely with you and your teams to help bring this to life. Next slide, thank you. So some starting points for you to get started and start thinking about when we're looking at objectives. Look at what challenge are you facing? What is that pain point that you're trying to address using in-app games or gamification? What desired actions would you like your users to undertake? What offers, rewards are you able to offer within the app? The budget, timing, length of the campaign as well, making sure that we've got plenty of time. If you're thinking, peak would be a great time to start thinking about this. And that's going to be literally tomorrow before we know it. So, now's the time to really start thinking and engaging with us if you want to get something into the app for peak. And then obviously, thinking about your KPIs and your success metrics to make sure that, when we're getting that brief, we can help make sure that we are measuring those. And with that, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, so thank you for listening to this webinar. We hope that you found it interesting, engaging, and hopefully you feel inspired to look at in-app gaming within your apps. And before we move to questions, I just, which I've seen come in, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Yasin for joining and taking us through that really insightful presentation.
Thank you.
No worries. Right. So I've got a couple of questions. Yes, and I think some of them are directly towards you, and I've got a couple for POC. But what are the lead times to get a concept together typically, and the lead times to create a game?
Okay, yeah. So typically, it takes about 5 to 7 days to get a concept together. It does depend on how detailed the brief is. So normally we get the brief and we might need to rescope the brief again to actually get it really defined. But yeah, typically 5 to 7 days. And then in terms of development, again, it depends on the project and how ambitious it is. But typically, it could be 4 to 5 weeks plus. But again, it really does depend on the project, and also how much back and forth is involved.
Okay, fair enough. Are in-app games used by retailers as a tactical approach, or is there a long-term strategy to it?
So you can use it as both, actually. So we have one client who's actually in the banking sector that we have a contract with, and we've developed about 6 games for them, and help them build a strategy so they can apply that across the whole year, because there's lots of things to consider in terms of what kind of rewards you can give, how can you keep people engaged for that length of time, especially as people are going to be getting more and more better at the games as they're there in the app, and you definitely need a rotation of games, either by I don't know, like reducing the access to the games, or making the games a bit difficult, or or creating some other way to make them enticing over a longer period of time. Short term, definitely, like typically, like most campaigns we do is I would say it can be like 2 weeks to a month. And the strategy for that is basically just to generate as much gameplays in a short amount of time. So we might look at, seeing what kind of rewards you can give your shoppers that might be only redeemable in a short amount of time. So there's a real incentive to actually play and get those rewards. But yeah, both strategies can be used.
Awesome, thank you. I've got one here. I don't mind taking it, or you can as well. It's does it require development work in the app? I'm happy to take it from a POC perspective. Yeah, okay. So like I said, why I was excited about this partnership is because it was supposed to create a really seamless journey for our customers to be able to integrate this. And so I think, as Yasin mentioned, when we're looking at in-app games specifically, it's an iframe link. So from our customers' perspective, from the app, Gameloft would create your creative and your banners, and you would put from the CMS tool, just upload that creative, and basically users will click on it, and then the iframe link would open up. They stay within the app, so it will just close. So there's no leakage. It creates that app wall garden, as you would say. So I mean, it's from that, to answer that question, no, there's no development work per se from our side. I think when we explore gamification, though, and we're looking at the process, that's something we need to have a much deeper conversation about. Cool. And we have another one, which is, what requirements creative is needed from a brand in order to create a game? I'm going to give that one to you, Yasin.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, really, like, it's quite minimal in terms of requirements. So like fonts, logos, any open files. If you've got campaign running, then we can take those creatives to take some creative direction in terms of how the games will look. But yeah, because we've got such a huge catalog of games that we've done before, we've got a lot of elements that we can recustomize and rebrand. So really, the requirements are quite minimal, to be honest with you.
Okay, awesome. And we've just got one more question, unless anyone else has got any, please do send them through. Which was, how would you use in-app games to drive app downloads? Again, I think that's a great question. I'm happy to take this one, Yasin, or we can part to it. I was going to talk about the experience I've seen, or the fact that, what made me want to go out and get this partnership, or, for POC and Gameloft, which is, there was loads of examples where they're using in-app games, creating that app experience to make it better than web. And with the creative that you would get when Gameloft creates the in-app game, you'll get promotional creative. And the examples that I've seen, they've used across all their owned and earned channels. They've really looked at that sort of journey of creating or converting web users to app users. So whether they've been putting it onto their mobile sites, they're using it in their emails, and really sort of promoting, download the app in order to win £500 of shopping vouchers, play this game. So it can be a really effective strategy to drive downloads. And then also, if you do want to create, put paid media behind it, obviously, with the creative that you have, you can go easily place it onto Google, Facebook, the social networks, or wherever you're buying your media. Don't know if you've got anything else to add, Yasin, to that? Or...
Yeah, no, I think it's a really fun and fresh way. Like, if you're promoting the fact that you've got a game and inside your app, and there's a benefit, like some kind of prize or something that you can get from the game, then that's really cool. From a Gameloft perspective, we can do lots of other things as well. Even we can develop a small version of that game that you can run elsewhere, and then you can use that game. For example, players could play that game to win a token, which gives you an extra prize or an extra incentive in the game, which is going to be embedded inside your app. So there's lots of different things that we can actually do.
That's really interesting, and I think that's definitely something, when we're talking to our customers and we're on the call with you and we're doing the brief and we're doing the objectives, that's something that will help build out. The reason I'll be on the call as well is to really build out that app marketing strategy behind it, to make sure that we do hit those KPIs for you. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions, but if not, I would again just like to thank you for all joining. Thank you, Yasin, for hosting that great presentation and being there to support. And like I said, we'll be sending this link out video so you can review the content again in your own time or share with your teams. And yeah, please do reach out to your customer success manager if you do have any questions, or if you're interested in speaking to Yasin and myself, we can definitely arrange a call. Great, thank you.
Cool, thank you. Nice to meet you all.